about this energy. Energy cannot be created nor destroyed. So if you've got a lot of energy, i.e. dark energy, fear and anger, we can transform that energy vertically rather than horizontally. And we can use it. We can become the alchemists of that. We can use that dark energy in the lower energy centers, that difficult past you had. You can move that up and use it to open the heart.
Hey, what's up, y'all? Welcome back. I'm just going for a walk, and I find myself asking the same question over and over again. What if the real spiritual journey, the real spiritual work isn't about escaping the pain, but diving headfirst into it, kind of like Neo in the Matrix? Today, I sit down with my brother from another mother, Matt Burke, and we discuss his journey, how he transformed a gritty past in Dublin into a life of peace, presence, purpose. If you're on the path of self-discovery, this one's for you for sure. Don't forget to subscribe, drop a comment, and share this with anyone who needs it. My brother from another mother, Matt, thank you.
Trey, good morning, good afternoon. It's good morning there. It's good afternoon in Ireland. It's lovely to be here. You sent me a message the other day or last week about coming on, and I got really, really filled up with love and appreciation. It means so much to get the opportunity to come onto your podcast, a podcast that I really love, and to have a chat. So thanks. I'm really grateful. Thanks, Trey.
Yeah, man. I we've had so many different exchanges of messages. You are too a part of the meditation group that I belong to with Tommy Ellis and Biba Logan, and you and I naturally just started. Actually, it's funny because I actually started listening to our Jeff Thompson, our teacher. I consider him my teacher from afar, and I was reaching out to Tommy about how if he knew of him, or had any experience with his work, and he immediately recommended you to me, and so we got in contact, and then you personally know Jeff, and the rest is history, man. Like, I mean, we wake up and like exchange messages, and that energy, that love, that brotherhood type of camaraderie. And it means a lot to me, dude. Like, I think, the more that we evolve, the more that we find our people. And I consider you one of my people.
That's lovely. What a beautiful bunch of synchronicities. You listen to Jeff speaking to Tommy telling me that you're looking to speak to Jeff, and then I connect you, and then all the dots start to join up. And the commonality in all of those connections is love. It's just pure love, peace, joy, bliss. All of those names, me, you, Jeff, Tommy, they all are just beautiful, loving beings. And it's just love finding each other, love remembering each other. It's incredible. Jeff, oh man, Jeff, like Tommy, is an incredible teacher. He's just beautiful, beautiful man. I love him. I love him like I love you, Trey. And people say, but you don't really, like the human side of people say, but you don't know, Trey. You don't. I know love. I know love. And when I'm in the presence of love, all description, all of those mind jargon, all that mind bullshit just goes away, and I can just feel love. When I see your message, when me and you speak, I just feel love. And I'm at a place now where I can recognize that, and I'm quite good at it.
What was it like for you growing up, right? Like, as a man in Dublin. I don't know if you grew up in Dublin or not, but I know in the States, love is not a term that I use to exchange pleasantries or connecting with another man, right? So growing up, like, give me some background. I know we never really dived into your background. It's always like, we connect and we talk about our philosophies, but I want to know more about you. I wanted to bring you on the show to kind of just dissect the persona of Matt Burke, and get some reference or context to where you're at now.
Yeah, I grew up in the inner city within Dublin City, and it was it was in the 80s. I was born in the 70s, 76, 80. And it would be described as a challenging place to grow up, you know. It would be known as a working class area. I grew up in a working class family. My mom and dad, working class, done their best, amazing parents, but they would have prescribed to the teachings and programs that they would have been exposed to as children, and they would have taught through that. The environment that I lived in would have taught through that, and they would have spoke through that, and that's would be seen as a level of scarcity, lack, trouble, drama, pain, hurt. You know, the inner city is predicated in the 80s and 70s on that. There've been a lot of drink and drugs, crime, you know, yourself, HIV had come on the scene at that time. There was a lot of, you know, paramilitary stuff like IRA, vigilantes. So for a young boy like me growing up, it was an absolute war zone. I seen things that little boys of my age shouldn't be seeing. I would have been having conversations around things that little boys 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, right up shouldn't be having. I was exposed to elements within my experience that little gentle, kind, fragile souls shouldn't be exposed to. And that left an imprint on me. That poured into my experience, and that shaped me growing up. You know, I got involved in lots of different things that little boys shouldn't be getting involved in, whether it be drink and drugs and crime and causing trouble, you know, because that's just what we did. And that was something I did. And also I had certain beliefs about myself, you know. When you grow up in an area like that and everyone speaks about scarcity and lack and not enough and pain and trauma and says things through that lens and direct it towards you, you start to think that way and you start to feel that way. When you think and feel that way, you believe it to be. And when you don't feel good and you're not believing you are good, you do not good things, and that becomes your mantra, that becomes your way of life, that becomes your behavior, your actions, and you live through that. And that's what I did for a long time. I became part of what I grew up to know, and that was pain and lack and scarcity and hurt. And you know, and I too felt all of that because I felt hurt and lonely and scared, and but it wasn't a place that you would talk about that. You know, little boys were told that they don't cry, you don't talk about feelings. I remember actually putting my arm around a friend of mine years ago in a pub. We were only really, really young, and he told me to get me hand down. What do you think people would think? And he said something quite homophobic about it. That men being affectionate, men putting their arm around each other, wasn't a cool thing to do. You know, so me talking about feelings and emotions from a very young age, it just wasn't done. And I didn't observe anybody in my environment, i.e., in my home or in my school or in my friends. They didn't do it. So it wasn't the norm to do it. I didn't hear I love my dad dearly, absolutely love him. He's passed over now, but he never had done it. I I think I was only thinking about this the other day. I think I've only ever once seen my dad cry, and that's when he was diagnosed for the second time with having cancer, allegedly, in 2013, 2014. Other than that, I remember his dad passing over, and I don't remember him crying. So speaking about emotions, expressing emotions, you know, wasn't the done thing within the inner city, not in within my family. And that's not a judgment. That's just an observation. You know, that's looking back and go, it helps me understand. So yeah, that's what life was like for me growing up in the inner city.
It's a culture, it's society that that patriarchal model of society that we grow up in that kind of numbs us to our feelings and emotions, and we're not really taught how to communicate what we're feeling or what love is. We say it's a word, and we associate it with I don't. with giving and getting. And I mean, it's really tough. I mean, the program is deeply ingrained into me. Like this morning, I'm driving my son to school and I'm trying to have a conversation with him. And it can be silent at times. And it's like, I feel like the the program in me is okay with the silence, but there's a small voice. It's like, be different. Like, let's talk to him. Let's ask him about his life. How are you doing? You know, keep telling him that you love him. Let's ask about emotionally, psychologically, how are you doing? Like, think of things to say to him, because I grew up in silence. And
Mm,
for men, I think we associate silence with rejection. Whenever I say something to someone and there's immediate silence, I automatically think rejection. I shouldn't have said that. Or I get this internal voice, oh, that was dumb. Why did you just say that? You just exposed yourself. You're weak. You're, all the things. So
mm,
maybe it's the silence that I'm uncomfortable with sometimes with my son, but I know that I should be making an effort to have conversations with him that I didn't have, probe him a little bit more about where he's at in his life. Does he know what emotions are? Does he know what he's feeling? Let's talk about that. Let's figure it out. Let's dive into that a little bit more. Let's talk about it. Like, because I'm still figuring it out, like what some of the emotions that I have are. Like, some of them I don't even really have words for. They just arise. I know what fear is. I know what anger is. I'm starting to learn more about what love is and what that means. And it's more, instead of being directed externally, I'm directing it more internally, which is having a direct effect on my external reality. It's making it a lot more fun, for sure. But you know, there's still chaos that happens. And especially over here in the States, I feel like there's just so much manipulation and so much noise that's happening that it affects us. And you know it takes the practice, like we were talking about earlier. We had some technical difficulties getting on this platform and setting up the show. And it's like those moments, that's really what the tests are. Almost, it's like the little things, right? The little tests that you really find out how spiritual you are.
yeah, like absolutely everything can be used as grist for the mill. Everything can be used as your curriculum in life. You know, like just before we got on, there was technicalities with the earphones. We went and got some more, and I could feel my body, my internal process start to become very tight and restricted. And for me, they're like smoke alarms. They're like alarms that go off on my system that tells me you're going in the wrong direction. You're going in the wrong direction. And it'll start to get louder and louder. And I'll be like, don't go that way. Don't go that way. But as soon as I feel them, Trey, I pause and I purposely smile. And that's a sign to my face, to my mind, to my body. You're going in the wrong direction. And I'm very, very specific on what I want in life. And I've boiled it down. I've done a titration. It's love or fear. It's peace or chaos. Call it what you like. You can call it love or fear, peace or chaos. And if I feel like I'm on the road to chaos, if I'm heading on the M50, the motorway to chaos, I put the brake on it and I stop. I smile. I broaden my awareness. I look around. I take stock of what's going on, and I don't follow that down the road. Like even before we came on the podcast earlier this morning, I was having email difficulties. My emails were down. I was trying to communicate with somebody online, a guy that set up my website, and it didn't feel like he was as helpful as he normally would be. But that then touched off something inside of me, and the smoke alarm went on. I could feel myself becoming restricted. I could feel the narration in my mind becoming of chaos, becoming of drama, becoming of, and they're just called to stop and remember your choice. It's love or fear. Is this loving in this moment? And I mean loving thoughts, peaceful thoughts, loving uh, behaviors and actions. And then it's just a way, there's signposts to say to me, you're going in the wrong direction, do an absolute U-turn.
Sure.
And it again, when you take that turn, the peace starts to take momentum, and things start to feel a little bit easier. And then you realize, I created all that. I just created all that drama in my mind, and now I'm uncreating it by just doing a little U-turn and remembering my purpose, remembering my mission in life. You know, I've got an aim and a mission like a company, and mine is very, very simple. It's peace, it's joy, it's love, it's do no harm, help, and service. And if I'm out of alignment with that, then I'm just bullshit. Then I'm not being integral. Like, call it what
Mm.
you like, whether you're sitting with your son or you're sitting with my daughter and she's going off and they don't want to talk to you and you've got some stuff going through. You got to remind myself, what's my aim? What's my mission statement?
I love that. So authenticity. I've read a lot of existential philosophies recently about authenticity and how we lie to ourselves when we go out into society. We put on these masks to kind of portray an image or portray a character, and we essentially we are lying to who we truly are. And um, a lot of I would say the work that I have been doing is making a different choice in how I would react. So how would you define authenticity? Like how would Matt define how would you show up, right? Like in any situation? Because I feel like there's a fine line, right, of authenticity and then disassociation with how we feel, right? Like how we feel in the moment. Because a lot of and as you know, a lot of therapists are like, you need to express all of that anger. You need to express and have this cathartic release of these emotions, these energies. And there's a lot of um, other therapies that are, well, I shouldn't even say therapies, but there are like Joe Dispenza's work where they're talking about making a different choice in how you react. Like sometimes it is not allowing that energy to arise in you to create that reality. So I'm curious, like how do you show up to be authentic?
The therapy model is interesting, isn't it? You got to express it. You got to, like, do they mean horizontally? Do they mean go around like roaring and shouting and getting it out? You know, you know the work of Jeff Thompson, and he talks about this, and me and him have spoke about it, about this energy cannot be created nor destroyed, it can only be transformed. So if you've got a lot of energy, i.e. dark energy, fear and anger, resentment, and pain and trauma, and it's stored in the lower energy centers, we can transform that energy vertically rather than horizontally, and we can use it. We can become the alchemists of that. We can use that dark energy in the lower energy centers, that difficult past you had, that thing that person said to you, that historical stuff going through your system. You can move that up and use it to open the heart. When I stop putting my energy horizontally out into the world and used it for going up into my heart, using it for service, using it for helping other people, I cry at the drop of a hat when I'm in the presence of love. You know, I don't use that dark energy, and I don't express and say, I don't speak through it. I let it move up and open up my heart. And my heart is expanding. There's still loads more to do. So that's my thoughts on this energy and this expression of energy and the pain that we go through. It can be used very, very economically. What way do I go out into the world as authentic as possible? And you know, one of the best things I've ever done, Trey, was be as honest. I became like Jim Carrey in Liar Liar. I do not tell lies. I don't tell lies. I don't tell lies to myself, and I don't tell lies to the world. That has created clarity. That has created transparency. That has given me so much peace. Why? Because I spent from 1976 right up to 2010, 12, just being so scared and so worried about what the world would think of me that I would have had a PhD in telling lies. I just told spoofs all day, all the time. how I was thinking, how I was feeling. I manipulated people. I tried to coerce people into life and different things. I was involved in criminal activities. It was all, I used all of those modalities, whether it be the drink, the drugs, the sex, the food, all of those things as a mask, as a way of hiding away from the world. Because underneath all of that, and down in them lower energy centers, I didn't feel good enough. I didn't feel enough. I didn't feel worthy. I didn't feel lovable. I was never told I was loved as a child, because people taught in my experience in my environment that that wasn't something you had to do because they didn't receive it. So then I wasn't told it. So I never believed that I was lovable. I thought connection was only through sex and having sex with people. And I've learned that that's not the that's not the truth. So what I try to do in the world, Trey, is I try to go out there and be as honest and open with myself and present that to the world. And that has opened doors beyond belief. That has created so much freedom in myself, because I'm not wearing those masks. I'm not wearing those shields to hide me. But I didn't know they were there because they were at a very, very unconscious level. This program gets poured into you and gets stored in your system, and sometimes you don't even know that it's there. And then it's only when we bring the unconscious to the conscious that we can change it. That's what I help people do. It's bringing that unconscious to the conscious so they can make changes in the program, in their program.
Mm.
So I think the most beneficial way to be authentic is show up and be honest with yourself. Why did you say that? Why did you do that? Why are you going to text that? What's your intentions? Why are you really, really doing that? Like, and that then, because you are your own judge and jury, and when you're as honest and open with yourself, then you just present to the world totally different. You have nothing to hide.
Mm. How do you discern between the ego and showing up authentically, right? Like, how do you know you're showing up as your authentic heart, love, soul, as opposed to the ego showing up authentically? You know what I mean? That mask.
How do I do that? It just feels different. It feels different when we show up as the ego. It sounds different. It just sounds different. It sounds, I do this and I do that, and I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do that. When we just turn up as love, as the Ching would say, the Tao does nothing and leaves nothing undone.
You know what's funny
The
about that,
Tao,
right? Is that like I have a really tough time, especially when you start to evolve, and I don't mean to cut you off, like in the spiritual work, the less I need personally, right? Like the less conversations that I need to have in social settings or environments. And for me, that's great. But like for my wife, it's like you're such a joy to go out with, Dre. Like you're just so great. You're great. You're a great conversationalist. I'm like, I just don't want to talk about anything. Like I just want to experience life unfolding in this moment. Like I just want to look around like I get in these states of like awe of life. Like I cannot believe this is happening right now. Like we'll go to lacrosse and I'm watching the girls play and I'm just surrounded by life, like I'm just in these moments and it's really tough for me to have conversations. And so like showing up authentically is like sometimes me sitting in silence, like just me instead of me putting on this mask of like, all right, boys, how we doing today? Let's talk about some sports. Did you watch the Final Four? Did what's the betting line on that game? Like does that make sense?
yeah, 100%. Like that is a huge challenge when everybody else, and I don't mean to do totality, which is everyone else, but I mean when a lot of people, when majority of people are just living the life of the program, or what you would know as the matrix, or whatever you want to call it. I'm not too au fait with that, but just living that humdrum same day thing, everyday thing, and then you come along and want to do things slightly different. That can be extremely challenging, really challenging. But when you are so honest and so open and so committed to being authentic and integral, Like when we be honest to ourselves and we be open and we be integral, then we have to stick to that, and it's their decision what they want to do, whether they want to stick around or whether they don't want to stick around. You know, I do my work, you do your work, and we come together. But if we don't, then we probably might have to go separate ways with friends, you know. But this is what I want to do, and this is what I'm going to do. And my spiritual intention is never to hurt or harm anybody. Um, and I believe it's the right way to do it, because I have learned the ways that I used to do it weren't the right way to do it, because I hurt lots of different people. I broke people's heart. I stole. I cheated. I lied. And I know now that's not the way for me. It doesn't feel that way anymore. I'm gonna go that way because that's feels better, and that's driven by my heart. And
Mm.
it's not even at an intellectual level, Trey, like the egoic, I'm going this way and it's this and it's that and it's all this and it's all that. It's just like, no, I just know that's the way I have to go. Like
Mm.
leaving my job in 2022, leaving a full-time pensionable job, and people told me I was crazy and why would you do that and you're set for life. And I'm like, it's just not the way to go anymore. And
Yeah.
if I had a stage tray, I would have been telling lies. It wouldn't have been authentic. And as Jeff said to me when we had a call, Jeff was such a great guy, an amazing person for me around that time. He was like, if you want clean water, you got to have clean pipes. And are your pipes clean at the moment? Or are you telling some lies? Are you doing anything underhanded? And I don't mean anything bad, but just telling lies. And I'm like, I sure am, Jeff. And he goes, well, then you have some answers to make, or some choices to make.
Yeah, he's like this classical transpersonal psychologist almost, but he wouldn't call himself that, because like transpersonal is like transcending the persona, like a Jung, which Jung talks about the individuation process,
Mm.
making the unconscious conscious, and then Maslow talks about the hierarchy of needs, and then hitting
Self-actualization.
self-actualization. But there's
Mm.
also another step that he talks about that no one really talks about in today's modern literature, is like the self-transcendent state. Like, how do you get to that point to where now the greater other, the universe, is now co-creating with you in the vehicle in which you carry, the avatar, right? Like, now it's not just your consciousness. Now you are opening and making space for the universal one to come into your vessel, to, like, to your point, the
Into
clean
that
water,
sacred
clean
calling.
pipes. Yeah.
Yeah, and like he spoke to me years ago about this, and if you want to expand, you got to contract. If you want to expand, you got to contract, and that means letting go of those conversations, letting go of those friends, letting go of those old ways of being. Like, I'm listening to you talking earlier, saying that you just don't want to talk sometimes. Like, if you had met me a couple of years ago, Trey, I'd be like, well, I did this and I've got 2 degrees and I wrote a book and I've got a podcast and I'm like, did a little did. And all I was doing, Trey, was I was just performing. I might as well just like a little monkey on a unicycle going, did a little did. Look at me. It's a sleight of hand. When you're looking at this, you can't see who Matt really is, that insecure little boy, all of those things that I thought I was. I thought I was the insecurity. I thought I was the pain. I thought I was. Now I'm none of any of that. I'm none of the degrees. I'm none of the pain. That's all just historical experience bullshit.
Hmm.
And just like you, I can just be quiet and I don't have to talk about anything.
It's funny. Everyone is so uncomfortable with the quiet. Like, I get it. It's like, but there's so much, like, untapped potential in that silence. It's like where, like, the infinite possibilities lie. Like, I don't know what's going to happen next. I don't know what I'm going to think next. I don't know what I'm going to download next. I just know that I'm quiet in this moment, and I'm in complete awe. It's not all the time, but it's in moments that I don't expect, like a drive home. Instead of listening to an audiobook or having a conversation, like, I'll just drive in the quiet and I'll just look at the trees, and it's springtime here, and it's like this. I can just see the life. I can see like how consciousness is creating life and it's unfolding. And Jeff is big about the what I'm trying to think about the book that he wrote, The Caretaker, that I have right next to me and I carry it with me. He talks about the oak tree. The oak tree, if you guys haven't read it, please pick this book up, The Caretaker. It talks about such a great metaphor for the spiritual path and how to become like the oak tree. It starts out as a seed and then it turns into this the strongest tree, in creation. But it's like the storms, the weather, the winds, it all has to endure that to become stronger. And then as it grows, it has to put its roots deeper, deeper into the darkness, into the ground to receive more nutrients. It's like wherever you're at in your life, I mean, you're experiencing the darkness. Like I'm sure everyone is experiencing a little bit of chaos, but the further you go into that, the more nutrients you'll receive in that darkness, the stronger you will become. The more water you will pull from that. And so then the oak tree grows larger and larger and larger, but it automatically gives back to its environment. It automatically gives back to the world. It is of service. It is receiving, but it's also giving. And it's a great metaphor for our lives. Like, yes, when you start giving and being more of service, you will receive more. Doesn't mean that the storms will stop. Doesn't mean that the weather won't come, the snows won't come, winter won't come, but it prepares you for those seasons in your life. And the more that you can endure, the more that you grow. And I just find his teaching so profound. How did you meet him?
Yeah, I just want to touch on something you spoke there. It's amazing how we can use metaphors and observations in nature to really help us understand life. I have this I have this connection to nature that I watch and observe. And all of the seasons, whether it be summer, spring, autumn, winter, every one of those are beneficial and fruitful. A lot of people, and specifically in Ireland, if they see a bit of sun, they're like, oh, the sun is here. Life is wonderful. Life is amazing. And I'm like, even in the winter, it's amazing. Even in autumn, even in spring, it's amazing. Every part of the weather is amazing because it's beneficial at some level. It's beneficial. And all of the experiences that we go through in life are beneficial if we open our eyes and see how this can be fruitful, beneficial, as Viktor Frankl says. We'll endure any pain if we have a why. When you're going through something and a difficult challenge, and if you hold your center and you say to yourself, what am I learning in this? What is the benefit? What is the gift? How can I use this as grist for the mill? How can I, like what we spoke about at the start of this call, the phone and the monsters trying to get in and cause havoc, and we just smiled and we says, we'll just go old school, and here we are having this beautiful conversation. So like the winter, like the oak tree uses all of the elements, it uses all of the seasons of benefit for itself so it can serve others too. So we can use, when we go through a challenging time, that challenging time to serve us, and then we can share, we can pass back or pass down or pass forward the wisdom, whether that be through words, through compassion, through whatever. So it's really important that we view things in that way. So the question you asked me was, how did I come across Jeff?
Yeah.
Yeah, a friend of mine sent his podcast to me. He was on the London Reels, and I didn't listen to it because I'm always getting sent stuff, and I didn't listen. And it was a couple of months, I'd say 3 months later, I was driving home, and just as I look at the camera there, it's 333, beautiful. So
Right now,
I was
or
driving.
when you were driving?
No, now as I'm looking at this here, the recording, we were up to 33 minutes and 33 seconds. Our friend Yeshua is guiding us through this conversation as always. So I was driving back from Bray, and it just dropped into my head, that podcast, because the very next day I was starting a program. I was delivering a program to a bunch of people called Mind Your Little Self. And I listened to Jeff's podcast on London Real, and it was probably only about 10 seconds in, Trey, and I burst into tears. I was like, wow, this man. And I listened to his interview. It was incredible. It blew my mind. And when I got home, I sent him a voicemail on Instagram. I found him on Instagram. I sent him a voicemail, and he sent me a voicemail back. And, thanked me for my words. He has some Irish connections. Family members of his are Irish. And then we just got speaking, and I asked him to come on the podcast. He came on my podcast. I wrote a book back then. He done the foreword for my book. I went through some challenging times in life, and he was at the end of the call for me. He was on a Zoom to me. Like, I've been over to England to visit him a couple of times. Like when he talks about kindness and love, and you take away all the books that he wrote, all the esoterical teachings that he's read, he boils it down. He lives the life of service, kindness, and love. And he's been an incredible teacher because of that. Not just the amazing books, but how he lives his life and how he was really kind and loving towards me. He really is an amazing teacher. He walks the walk and talks the talk, as they say.
Yeah, that's such an amazing story. Yeah, I think 333, that's like such a fascinating. I hear 888 is also like numerically supposed to represent the I guess maybe the name Jesus or Yeshua, but
Right.
that's outside my purview. But going back to Jeff Thompson and his inspiration, he also talks about don't ask for things that you're not ready for yet. And I do that all the time. I'm like, give me the Christ consciousness right now. Like, I want it so badly. I want to be awake, in this realm. But to receive that, like, can you imagine the amount of energy that you would receive in this earthly body to obtain that? Like, you would have to be a master of it. And I can still find myself still enslaved to anger or fear. Like in order to receive Christ consciousness, I just feel like I would have to master this vessel, which I haven't done yet. I'm working towards. But do you find yourself asking for things like, like spiritual gifts that you feel like you want in the moment, but in actuality, where you're just not ready for?
I remember Jeff telling me a few years ago about a friend of his that asked him to show me the pain, show me this and show me that. And Jeff was like, you be careful what you ask for, because it may be very challenging for your human experience to handle right now. So if you were sitting here in this room or the room that you were in, and it was fully dark, fully encapsulated with the dark, and all of a sudden people come in with lights that could fill up a football stadium, and you're there, you're blinded by the light, and it can be very painful, and that's what can happen to us. So as Jeff would say, and I've heard people say before, show me by piecemeal, show me what I can handle right now, and give it to me in a way that my human experience can handle that, and I can keep moving forward. Because sometimes when we get these teachings and awakenings like I did in 2021, 22, it brought me to my knees. It buckled me. Like, I literally couldn't walk. I couldn't do anything in the world as well as I normally would do. I was in such pain, and I
So is
just
this like
couldn't
a
handle it.
Kundalini awakening, or like, can you describe a little bit more context? Give us some context about the awakening.
So I was reading Jeff's book, The Divine CEO, and I was in the toilet, and I had my daughter in the room.
You're using the
Yeah.
toilet? Okay, I got you.
And I was reading the book, and this was my second time reading it, and I was talking about the spiritual life, and I remember coming out of the bathroom, and everything just seemed brighter. It was so bright, it seemed like I was after taking LSD again, and I thought I was tripping. And I walked into my daughter, and I was obviously minding it, and I started getting freaked out that I was going into another dimension. I thought I was going into another world, and then the human body, the human experience was pulling me back in, basically. And I started getting panic attacks. I started getting anxiety like I never experienced before. I started having ideas and beliefs that I shouldn't be here in this experience anymore. And life became really, really challenging. I was going through what Jeff would describe as a spiritual emergence. And that went on for a long time. And it was really then, Trey, that I wouldn't have been what you would call, interested in spirituality, i.e., Jesus and religion or any of those things. But I found myself going to where the only place I knew them to be was in churches. I found myself turning to Jesus, turning to Yeshua, visiting churches, 3 or 4 of them on days. I'd go around just to sit and be in that presence, not just to be in the church, but just to feel that kind of Christ-like energy in me. Like I was driving to Nuri this morning. I was only thinking of Yeshua and just being connected to that Christ-like energy, and I just burst into tears. So that event that I went through, it led me down the path of turning to Yeshua, turning into the Christ-like energy. Nothing to do with Catholicism, nothing to do with Christianity, just Yeshua and the Christ-like energy and the love that comes from that and the purity that comes from that, And that event went on for nearly a year and a half. But it just required me to keep, like anything that we do, whether it be the phone, gremlins jumping on us, it requires us to turn in and turn down, in and down, John's Cross, in and down, I think we call it, and just come into the heart, come into the heart, come into the heart, come into the heart.
That's beautiful. Have you ever experienced Yeshua in like a psychedelic like state or ceremony?
No, no, I've never done that. I've had conversations with him. I found statues. Like one day during that difficult time I spoke about, I found a little statue of his head just walking down the road. I was having challenges and I found it. There's been loads of different synchronicities and connections, and the numbers, the numbers, the 333. My old door was 333. There's been so many different synchronicities and serendipities. It's outside of psychedelic practice. I'm talking in my waking day, stuff that happens with just like, am I having like a spiritual experience in the middle of the day? Like, because I always think they happen in psychedelic experiences, but I have them during the day, conversation with people. Like even driving to Nuri this morning, I was thinking about a job that didn't come around, and then all of a sudden I get a message when I pull over that from a place that wants to work with me, and as I'm pulling away, angel numbers come in front of me, 333 and 444, and it's just like, calm down, kill your jets with your human body and your experience. We have you. It's sorted. Stop. It's just like, stop. So I have them in
these
my
numbers. Yeah, sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. When you
Yeah,
see
no,
these numbers, when you see the numbers, how do you make your decisions, right? Like, is it do you usually see them when you're thinking about life choices, like important, impactful choices that are going to affect your life directly? I guess I'm trying to think of what they call it. Critical choice points in your life. Like when you're at a critical choice point in your life, is that when you start seeing the numbers? And how do you discern which direction do you go?
Yeah, like so they'll come in alignment with what's going on in my experience. If I'm having difficulties around something and I'm starting to gain momentum with it, like as in getting into it, thinking, feeling, thinking. I mean, literally, a car will pull up, most probably a police car, and on the side of police cars, it'll have number 666, 666, and I'll see another one, 666. And what that's saying to me, Trey, is stop. Just stop. Don't go any further with this thinking. Don't add any more to it. Just stop. Shut up. Shut the fuck up. Like myself and Brown were sitting in a cafe one day, and in a relationship can be a little bit challenging sometimes. Now I've an amazing, beautiful relationship with Brownie. It's all good, but it still will have its difficulties for the map personality, the map persona. And she will say something, and I'll feel this going off, and I'm going to say something, and literally a car will pull up outside the cafe, and I'll see 666, I'll see 6610, and then I just say, shut up. And Brown will say, dit, 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 and I just say, I love you. I absolutely love you. And then it's gone. Because I remember, Trey, getting those signs, not following it, not doing anything, and then I know where it goes. It just snowballs. And then I'm in Shitsville, Arizona. You know?
That's so funny. No offense to Shitsville, Arizona. When you recently have participated in one of Dr. Joe's seminars, or I guess it's not a seminar anymore, it's like a world tour.
Yeah.
Like when you're at those spaces, when you're in those spaces, have you ever had like a peak experience, or have you ever gotten the energy from the lower energy centers to travel up the spine to the pineal gland to activate that?
No, like I'm only doing the Joe Dispenza work now, probably about 2 years, year and a half, coming up to 2 years, I think, in the end of this year. So a year and a half, really. I've not. I do the Joe Dispenza breath work. You know, that activating the pineal gland, that kind of imagination center. But no, I've not had any. I've not had any of that Kundalini. And I feel like since I've started doing this work over the last number of years, I feel really, really more connected with what's going on in my body. Like I spent a lot of my adult life in my head, literally. Like, I know you, and I've listened to loads of your podcasts, and I'm not saying that to blow smoke up your hole, but the amount of books that you have read, the intellect that you possess, I'm like, fuck, and that's amazing. And I can be connected to a lot, because I would have done the same. I'd have read tons of books, but for me, when I read loads of books, it was keeping me up here. We think in our head, we feel in our body. We got to feel our way out of this rather than think our way out of it. And now, since I've been doing this work over the number of years, I'm coming down from the head into the body, and I'm feeling more. I'm feeling more love. I'm feeling more peace. I'm feeling more, so I'm starting to really activate that side of things rather than the imagination or the pineal gland. But maybe in time I will. But what I'm trying to do, Trey, which is important for me, is I'm not trying to make anything happen. From somebody that used to take a lot of pharmaceutical products, let's say, recreational and medicated ones, I was always trying to make something happen. I was always trying to be my own pharmacist, using exogenous products. Now I don't do that. I try to do it myself, and I'm not trying to make it happen. I'm just going to go, do you know what? Let's see what happens. Let's see what happens.
Yeah. But there's so much research on the LSD stuff. I've recently watched a couple of episodes with some new science regarding like extended DMT states.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it's coming from like, I don't know, the UK or something. I don't Empirical College, I think, where they're having these extraordinary experiences in different dimensions. And I mean, it's cool to think about. There's, these elves, these like machine elves, right? Or whatever they are. But like, how does it help me here? How does it help me in this moment with Matt having a conversation? Like, it's cool. It's a cool talking point. When I go to the lacrosse games, maybe I should bring that up. Like, hey, there's magical elves, behind the scenes. We just can't see it.
Yeah.
But like, how does all the things, like, Jeff actually inspired me to write an article, my first article that I've ever written. And a friend of mine has a website or a blog site, and he published it for me. And it was basically, what is spiritual success? Like, what is spiritual success? You're in the podcast world, and you interview people, and you get pitched authors and influencers all the time. It's like, what is spiritual success? Like, the first thing they say is, oh, they have these X amount of followers. And I'm like, these are significant spiritual teachers in the world of spirituality. And the first thing they're worried about is followers. And I'm like, Is it the followers? Is it the tickets? Is it the amount of people, the views, all the things? Is that spiritual success? And it's like, no, it's not. And but everyone has a different take on spirituality. Like in all of my conversations, everyone has a different definition of what God is. Everyone has a different definition of what enlightenment is. And it's like, well, at the end of the day, how does it help me live here? You know, and what I love about you, Matt, is you talk about, and you've said this to me before, like my God is love. That's who I worship, is the love. And like if you can be in the now moment and just see, if you can remember that this isn't like true reality, like if you can get outside the drama for a second and just see the programs, if you can just see how you're going to react, like, you know, being in the body more and seeing the lower energy centers light up when you're angry or when you're getting ready to say some shit you shouldn't be saying, and step back and just be like, oh, like just to be here, like to be thankful to be in this moment of like in an actual world. Like I could be nothing. I could be zero awareness of self. I could be in the void, but I'm here having a conversation on a podcast with a great friend whom I love. That's like that gift right there of awareness. That's success. You know, it isn't the views. It isn't anything else. It's not the books. It's not the whatever. It's not the cryptocurrency. It's not any of that. It's like that awareness.
Like, I don't care if you're a yogi in a cave in Somalia, or you're a CEO of a big corporate company, or you're somebody on the street smoking crack. All of those are looking for peace. They all want peace. Peace should be the currency. How much peace do you want in your life? And you are the determinant of that. You know, how you think and how you feel. And you can read, like Jeff has read all the books and wrote the books. You've read books, I've read books, and we've done courses. But you can do MDMA, you can do psilocybin, you can do 1P LSD. What are you going to do? What are you going to do when you go into Walmart, or you go into Tesco, or you go into one of these supermarkets and somebody crashes into your trolley, or says something rude to you? Are you going to be peaceful? Are you going to choose kindness? Are you going to choose love? And if you're not, then you're telling yourself lies, because you said you wanted the peace and you wanted love. Now you have an opportunity to be the peace and be the love. We have a live functional moment for you to practice and be integral and authentic and be honest. This person, this man, this lady has just crashed into your trolley. They didn't say sorry. They were a little bit rude. And then you get to choose. Or are you just going to practice spiritual narcolepsy and go asleep at the wheel and lose your shit? Because if you do the opposite, then you're fucking bullshit, and don't lie to yourself. Come on.
Yeah, well, that goes to the point of like attachment, non-attachment. You know, like I kind of, you know, listening to Jeff, he talks a lot about Eckhart Tolle and the moment of now. Like in the moment of now, are you allowing the subpersonalities to arise and react to that, your accident, your car being dinged up? Funny thing is, like, the car doesn't even really exist. Like, not, you know, local realism is false. So,
Yeah.
you know, you're getting upset because of the story you tell yourself. You know, like, you know how hard I had to work to get that car, like my worthiness. Like, I can't
Who
believe they did that
cares?
to me. You know, you identify with that car, you know, and
Yeah.
I do it to myself too. Like I fall into that trap, you know, with the stock market over here in the US taking a crap because of, you know, the tariff situation. It's like I identify so much of, you know, the 401k with the hours and energy that I put into it. And it's like, that's not even like me. Like I like my awareness, my beingness is not defined by this role in which I play right now. Like I'm
No.
tricking myself right now, thinking that I am a human being on the planet Earth having this experience. And you get so wrapped into that drama, you get so tied into it that you know, we take everything personal, and like it's fear based, you know, going back to um, our conversation around how we depend on the external to give us the happiness. with
Yeah.
whether we're having conversations or if I just want to be quiet. Like I'm worried, well, if I'm really truly authentic and I just want to be silent in wherever I'm at, I'm the old Trey would be afraid of like, what if they don't like me anymore? Like what if they don't talk to me again? Like that means I'm not social. That means I don't fit in. I'm not the norm. And then that I could be an outcast and I'd be ostracized. And that's not great. But when you become like really powerful is when you don't need anything external from your environment to give you that happiness. Like you can be sitting in the Walmart parking lot or wherever you're at, Target, and somebody just destroyed your car, and you can just be like, this is not like this isn't who I am. Like that isn't a part of me. And I can say that because my car is not in the parking lot destroyed, but if I was in that situation, I would really like to just be able to step back and just laugh and be like, all right, that's just another thing that I have to get through. Like, how do I take the
Mm.
next step? But to remember, I have so much more potential to grow here. This is an opportunity for me to grow and to see the matrix, to see how
Mm.
things will unfold. And then I'm questioning my inner state. Like, what is it that is inside of me that is reflecting this back to me? What is the lesson that I need to learn here? Why is my car wrecked? Knock on wood. Um, like, why am I manifesting these accidents in my life? There's some type of leakage here, and I need to find
Mm.
that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. There's so much we could talk on that. I want to loop back. I want to loop back to something you said earlier, and was with regard to sitting in the car with your son and wanting to say something or ask questions and all that jimmy jazz. And when you used to sit in silence, right? So this is going to dovetail to what you're talking about there. If we can sit in silence with your son, and no judgment to the people that you used to sit in silence with, if we can sit in silence with our son, but the silence is emanating a frequency of love. If we are in our heart as we sit beside him, communication is 87% non-verbal. So when we're sitting in this car with him, we're in our hearts, we're bouncing with love, we're silent, we're Gucci, all is good. He's going to get a bang of it. Whether you ask him the questions or whether you don't ask him the questions, he's like, I can feel the love of my dad. He feels good today. I like being in his company. We don't even have to talk about shit. I feel safe. Uh, I feel seen. I feel loved. He's like, I'm good.
That's a good point. Because my programming, I guess the fear is like I need to say all these things. Like I need to ask him questions. I need to be. And I think there is always time and place for things to be discussed. Like you should definitely be active in your children's lives and want to know who they are as a person and help them mirror um social settings, I guess, when I'm not in like this blissed out awe. But to your point, yeah, I totally forgot about that. Like when you're in your heart space, Dr. Joe talks about this all the time. The electromagnetic field that it creates, you know, is so much more powerful than the mind when you're wrapped up in there. But when you emanate that out into your reality, like it has this causal effect on other people.
And the conversations will come from that. They won't come from a level of I'm holding hands with the past because my dad didn't used to talk to me like that and he used to blank me. Now it just comes from the generous present moment where the conversations that me and my boy or me and my daughter are going to have are going to come from creation, they're going to come from love, and they'll just come out rather than me having to orchestrate because I don't want to wash, rinse, repeat the past because my dad did that. What if I do what my dad never did because he didn't know no better, the poor fellow? Is that I'll stay in my heart. I'll practice being in my heart as much as I can. And then I'll change my frequency, and the little boy or the little girl or my partner, they'll just get a bang of that. They were like, oh, it just feels good to be around your man, Trey. It feels good to be around your man, Matt. And then our conversations come from creation, come from love. They're not from a sense of lack and scarcity, and they're more spontaneous. It's quite different, isn't it?
Sure. No, it is. Oh, there's so many things I want to talk about. Going back to the body. Now,
Mm.
there is a lot of talk about being in the body, right? But how can you be in the mind? How can you balance the two, like the heart, the mind, the body? Because some people can go way left into the body, like just be nothing about the body and actually ignore the heart. But then there's people that can do the opposite and just be in the mind all the time. And that's where, that's where I have been most of my life. How do you
Mm.
balance that, right? Like, how do you know when you're, I mean, even for a man, like when you're actually, and Jeff talks about this too, you have these parasites, or maybe you have these kind of primal like instincts of just, we are human, we are animals, essentially. We have evolved to this point in our consciousness and our humanity. How do you balance that line between being the animal and being the god?
How do I balance it between the animal and the what was the last piece? Sorry.
And the god, like, you know what I mean, like, how do you balance it? Because in my mind, just to clarify a little bit, like, we're giving two brains. We have the limbic brain, which is the animalistic brain, and then we have the prefrontal cortex, which is the angelic brain, where you have that sense of self, where you have this identity, the ego. Now, there is a tendency for me to fall asleep to that prefrontal cortex, and just react from the animalistic brain, where
Mm.
now I am reactive. I'm not living in the moment. And if I can, just kind of remember those states of being more so, and I'm trying to word this the right way.
Yeah, I get it. You're doing a good job.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. If I can just remember those states of not being the ego, if I can remember the player in the game, instead of being asleep and being in the game fully immersed in 3D world.
Yeah.
Like, how do you balance that? How do you, I mean, there's so many variables there, does that make sense? Like,
Yeah. What I try to do, Trey, what I try to do is I'm always trying to rewrite, rewire and refire new programs. And when we become aware, awareness, observation, consciousness, call it what you like, the seer, the noticer, the observation of it all. I've developed that over the last number of years, and that has helped me to, let's say, to step out of my experience and observe it in the moment. So we're always going through similar experiences. We're going through similar programs, similar conversations, similar triggers, similar response. It all becomes same. But it seems so different. No, Karen, it doesn't. It just doesn't. It's just repeating itself. So you just don't do the same thing again, or Claire, or Mary, or Johnny. We have to learn that this is happening again and again and again, but you keep doing the same thing, so you're going to get the same results. So when we, like you and I, we practice meditation, we practice observing, becoming the witness, the watch of it all. So then we go into an experience, and let's say I choose the lovely being that I live with in this house, Brown Malone. She's as pure as the driven soul. She's beautiful, but it will try the program, the old animalistic, reptilian side of my brain will try to repeat what it's always trying to repeat and stay safe from something it doesn't need to be safe from, because she's gentle and kind and she's loving. So when I observe that, that's trying to do what it's always done, I stop. I literally stop. I observe it. Like in a film, I press freeze, hold, and I'll notice and I'll say to myself, if you go that way, you're heading to Shittsville, Arizona. Or if you go that way and shut up, say nothing, give her a hug, even though your body wants to tell her that, I hold her and I go, I'm not going to do anything. I love you. I love you. And then it just settles. And then I question it. Where is that crazy talk gone now? What is it? Where is it gone now? What's all this about now? And there's no answer, because loving awareness established itself and didn't allow it to repeat what it always repeats. And then boom, we start to create a new program. And there's so many of those neurological programs in every part of our life. But observation, witness, seer helps us to notice, to take a helicopter view, and in live, tangible moments, we get to rewrite those programs. Like in Walmart, when that thing comes along, when that car crashes in or that person says something to us, you go, right, game on. This is a learning opportunity. This is a training exercise. When Brona starts telling me how to do the washing and do this and do that, and this goes off, I'm like, oh, that's quite interesting response to a beautiful, kind being telling me how to wash my clothes. That seems inappropriate. That doesn't seem an appropriate response. And then the witness then gets to decide what way we'll navigate this game. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, yeah. So do you think that tightness, that animalistic response is, I guess, that fight or flight state? Do you think that is nature versus nurture? Do you think that is, or do you think that is a program from childhood?
Well, um, it can be a combination of both. Our nature can be, our predisposition to certain things, and that our epigenetics is like a loaded gun, isn't it? And we need the environment then to help us pull the trigger. It can be a combination of both. But I know from my own personal experience, I grew up. Can you still see me and hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's froze a little bit here. But my experience growing up would have been challenging, and I would have grew up in hostile environments. So my nervous system would have been primed for survival. It would have been primed for scarcity. It would have been always, my first, second, and third energy center would have been always scanning for challenges. Would have been scanning for difficult things going on. So my response to things can sometimes be maladaptive and not appropriate. You know.
Hmm. Yeah. No, it's I think a lot of I definitely, my third energy center is, it is just where I feel a lot, and I know that it can be a feedback loop from the past, from
Mm,
just childhood programming or childhood, like, traumas that I haven't integrated with yet or made those conscious. So when I have a reaction, it's always an opportunity to kind of look at that more, and the pain body is like legit. Like, it is, like, when that thing hits you, like, it can be so uncomfortable and like
mm,
so gut wrenching. And then I just have to remember, like, it just doesn't matter how painful this is right now. Like, this isn't who I am, because it's temporary. It's like,
yeah.
it comes and goes, you breathe into it almost. And, with small kids, it's very easy to come home tired and depleted. I think they call it like ego depletion, where you're just wore out. Your defense mechanisms are just, you're tired. You've had a long day. And so something can set you off where you're not centered or grounded, to where you're reacting now. And that's where, and it's so hard to be present. Like, it's so hard to be present. Like, I can remember, and I do this, I'm driving down the road trying to be in the moment, like literally in the moment of like seeing everything, and then falling asleep in my imagination, and
Yeah.
then coming back. And then same thing at home. Like, I'm present to every step that I take, walking in the house, the conversations, making sure that I give kisses to everyone first before I do anything else, and then kind of unwind, and then you kind of fall asleep a little bit, and then next thing you know, you're reacting to something, and so it's just like this cycle of falling asleep, staying awake, falling asleep, staying awake. And I think, it's about building that muscle of just staying awake more than you are asleep, but it's so easy. You know what I mean?
And it's that thing that they talk about, that spiritual narcolepsy. It's falling asleep at the wheel. Um, what I would have found difficult over the years was when I felt anybody touching off these, what Eckhart Tolle or the spiritual text will talk about, these pain bodies. I would have recoiled or lashed out, or I would have pulled away, and I'd have hid from it. Now when I experience any of these, is I lean in. I lean into the sharp edges of pain, because now I realize that that stuff whether you want to call it childhood trauma, whether you're going to call it experience, whether you want to call it, transgenerational pain or ancestral stuff, it's within this body. It's, it's housed in here, but it was at an unconscious level. Now I've made it conscious, whether it comes up with Brona or my mom or my family. Now I'm like, okay, you're there. So this is an opportunity to bring it up. If I can bring it up, I get to clean it. I get to let it go. It's there. And now I get to work with it. If we leave it hidden and we drink and we take drugs and we try to suppress it, we're never going to evolve. We're never going to ascend. But if we get into a conversation with our partner or the kids or something like that, and it evokes us like a volcano, brilliant. Let the volcano come up and go out. But don't let it go horizontally onto the kids. Don't let it go horizontally onto our wife or our friends. We can let it come up and keep letting it come up and keep letting it come up. That then we're free. We become free of that pain body rather than to keep speaking about it, acting in through it, copy and pasting it into the world. What if we were to free ourselves? We're just letting it come up. Don't speak through it. Just let it go, let it go, let it go, let it go.
I love it. Feel the burn, baby. Feel the burn.
Yeah, feel the burn. And you know yourself, Trey, it can be like somebody who's had to injecting you with, all of the hormones of stress, cortisol, adrenaline, norepinephrine, and we feel like we've been hijacked by the jihad, to like the greatest war. And it takes every cell in our body to want us to go in a different direction, but we use our awareness and our witness to say, no, I want this peace more than I want the old story. I want this love more than I want the old story. And I'm just going to sit and stay, and I'm not going to do what you've always told me to do. I'm going to choose love. I'm going to choose peace, because that's my mission and aim,
Sure. Man, you're awesome, dude. I love this conversation. I love you, buddy.
Beautiful.
Thank you for taking the time. How can people connect with you?
So you can find me on Facebook, or more so on Instagram, at Magic Minds Podcast, or Matt Burke 1976, or you can get me at my email, matt@magicminds.ie, and I have a website, www.magicminds.ie. You'll find me there and all the work that I do if people are interested in having a chat.
Yeah, I love that, man. Maybe send you some mail over at Shittsville, Arizona.
That's a holiday destination that nobody wants to go, but it's a nice reference point. Don't go there. Our heart is heaven on earth, and love is the way home. So stay in heaven.
I love it, Matt. Thank you, brother.
Thank you, Trey. It was an absolute pleasure. I love you, man. You're just a beautiful human doing beautiful things in the world. You're beautiful, man. I love you.